Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Stephen Kelly. I'm Chief Executive of Manufacturing Northern Ireland. You're very welcome to this third STEP webinar. STEP stands for Smart Technology for People. And the STEP webinars are a series of four where we're talking with manufacturers across Northern Ireland about their efforts to increase digitization within their business, to increase productivity, and to ensure the success of their business. I'm very pleased today that I'm joined by David Bigger, who is Quality Manager at SAM NI, and David will be going through a Q&A with us shortly. Next slide, please, Barry. So just so you know, I will begin with a very short video, about 5 minutes long, where Dara Ganley, who's a quality engineer at SAM NI, will take you through their business and what they've been doing. I will then have an opportunity to engage with David, and indeed Dara will be there as well in a questions and answer session. If you use the questions function on this webinar, we'll get a sight of those questions and we'll put them to David and Dara as soon as we get through to the Q&A session. These have been very well received sessions so far. We keep them short and sweet. It should be no more than about 40 minutes or so in total, depending on the many questions we receive from the audience tuning in at the moment. So maybe if I ask David and myself just to switch off our cameras, and Barry will run the video, which will introduce you into SAM NI.
My name's Dara Ganley and I'm a quality engineer here at SAM NI. SAM NI is a part of a large multinational company located in Portadown in Northern Ireland. We primarily focus on machining, assembling large complex aerostructures made from aluminium, titanium and other exotic metals. And lately I've been focusing on implementing digital technology throughout the different business processes within the organisation. The objective of this project was to reduce waste, increase productivity and quality, whilst also providing access to real-time data. We began to analyse different areas of the business and found that there was a huge number of manual, inefficient tasks being carried out. We identified two different applications, the first being digital assisted assembly to streamline the assembly process, and then furthering things by using the Internet of Things to facilitate faster and more effective decision making. Having recently implemented a new ERP system within the company, it provided SAM NI the opportunity to make all of the work instructions digital, making it much easier to control traceability and also control the revisions of our procedures. Traditionally, each part manufactured would have been measured by the operator and recorded in a paper-based format, which would never have been revisited. Now, each and every measurement can get digitally recorded, referenced against the job to maintain the traceability. We were then able to digitize all of our inspection gauges, which enabled the operators to complete the in-process inspection routines. However, the best advantage of using digital work instructions and measurement gauges was that we had the option to automatically calculate the capability of the process and flag up in real time to notify the operator if there was an issue with these parts. In order to do this, we utilized a software called QDAS. This is a statistical analysis software created by Hexagon Metrology, and this allowed us to collate all our measurements, be it goods in-process inspection or final inspection. This has allowed our quality team to implement sample-based inspection, freeing up capacity for more useful activities like investigating the data trends. We have noted to be able to fully realise these capabilities of the software and new technologies that we have implemented, that we are also need to make sure that our engineers are not left behind. Therefore, we have made significant investment in our people and are currently training 7 of our engineers on Six Sigma Black Belt. It was very difficult to initially select the most appropriate digital solution. Ultimately, we started the benchmarking exercise with a number of similar companies and access expertise which existed within the wider network that we would normally not be able to reach out to. But one of the key parameters we looked for when researching solutions was ease of implementation, so it can be utilised alongside our current equipment and our ERP system. so we were able to realise a quick benefit and quick win. Once we found a technology which was suited to our needs, we began the implementation phase. Initially, this started with a pilot scheme involving one singular assembly product, and this allowed for proof of concept before we were able to roll out across similar assembly lines. Engaging the team here at SAM NI was extremely easy. We have a very young team who are all eager to implement new things within our processes. For this project, the management team started by sharing the vision for the future of SAM NI, and this helped to create a real urgency within the team. And everyone was extremely happy to participate in the process and help implement new solutions, mainly due to seeing how much easier their day-to-day job can be with some simple changes. Over the next number of months, we expect the process time for all our assembly operations to continue trending downwards as we increase the rollout along all assembly products. Long term, we are better placed to deal with the larger, more complex assemblies, which is one of the key enablers for our growth strategy. We now feel we have a strong digital foundation for our assembly process which we can build upon. The next phase will be looking at immersive technology and really seeing how we can utilise something like the HoloLens to further increase the productivity and make our procedures much more robust, so we can provide an even better service to our customers. So 3 pieces of advice that I would give to any business before starting their digital technology journey would be to do your research. Another key thing to do would be to collaborate. It is always good to tap in and learn from other companies' experience. And the final thing I would advise is to listen to all your employees. Involving them in the process from the outset was key to the success of the project. We carried out multiple different brainstorming exercises with each department and found some really good ideas, and it helped get the buy-in and support from all employees right from the outset.
Thanks very much, Dara and Barry in the background in terms of making the videos run for us. We're going to have a couple of quick polls through this as well. So maybe Barry, if you could put up the first poll question for us, just as we begin the Q&A, it would be really good. We're going to keep this open for about 10 or 15 seconds. So you can give us your feedback, it would be good. So in respect of your digital transformational journey, where would you currently rate your business? So Barry, just as we begin, it's a very useful video, and thanks to Dara for helping us out with that one as well. How have you found your experience in embedding that digital technology throughout the production process and the integration of digital quality gateways? I mean, how's that experience been for you?
Yeah, okay. Well, I think I'll start just by giving a bit more context, Stephen, to the overall project and really highlighting some of the factors surrounding the need for change at SAM NI. So, as everyone's well aware, the aerospace industry has been severely impacted by COVID-19. And at SAM, I guess, we followed a similar trend to many other companies within the sector. But as that famous saying goes, during a crisis, there also lies great opportunities. And this was really the mindset within the SAM team from the outset. And yeah, our sales may have dropped initially, but we knew that the aerospace sector was extremely resilient and that demand would return and be higher than pre-pandemic rates. So at SAM, we actually seen this as a fantastic opportunity to consolidate our current internal capabilities and build back stronger to be better prepared to support our customers for the inevitable ramp up. So, we were formerly known as JW Kane, and we were acquired by SAM in 2019. And since then, we have been transitioning the business from a standalone SME to become a subsidiary of a large multinational corporation. And one of the first major tasks which we undertook was implementing a new ERP system. And from the outset, we recognized that this ERP system needed to be at the center of every operational transaction which occurred within the business, and that it was able to actually, we were able to bolt on digital solutions to this ERP system in the future. In terms of actually implementing the technology, we found this process extremely complex, but also rewarding. And as mentioned in the recording, we have a very young workforce, and it was really, really encouraging to see the enthusiasm of individuals whenever we asked, how they thought digital technology and applications could make their jobs better. But it's important to recognize also that, whenever we were implementing a large scale change initiatives, it is a difficult task. And I guess, we were fortunate enough that whenever we were implementing digital assembly aids and quality gateways, that our demand had dropped. So it was almost the ideal time for us to actually do this project.
And David, Dara very helpfully in the video there talked about the kind of 3 key lessons. The first being do your research, 2 is collaborate and learn from others, both their successes and perhaps even their failures or challenges as part of that process, and also listen and engage with the employees. Just on that last point in terms of the people within the business, obviously everyone's very concerned, very worried about COVID-19 and what it would mean, particularly in an industry like your own. So what was that experience like for you in terms of just talking to colleagues, people on the work floor? What was the kind of feedback from them? Was it reassuring to them that the business was really actually doing the opposite of what they perhaps would have expected, which was they were actually going to invest and put a load of money in and improve the business?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think, first and foremost, even implementing technology purely for our employee safety, that was our number one priority. To put everyone's mind at ease that whenever they came into the workplace, that we had done everything we could to ensure their safety. But in terms of technology and making their jobs better, I think we've probably tried different initiatives in the past whereby we were trying to implement digital technology and we were almost taking that top-down approach. And sometimes it's quite difficult and you can lose momentum. So this time we actually, from the very outset, we got all of the employees involved and we asked them, what is your initial feedback from doing your job? How could we make it better? And we found a lot of them were very forthcoming and actually suggested a lot of very viable options which we could then implement to make the thing better for them.
And I think there's a lot of lessons there for everyone in terms of don't be afraid to engage, because I see some of the best ideas come from your colleagues around the table. We have a question in the chat there, and if there are other questions, do send them to us. But you in the video there and your presentation after it, you talked about the first step was this ERP system that you introduced. Can you tell us what that ERP system was and what that experience was like, just getting it into the business?
Yeah, so the ERP system which we installed is a system called CloudSuite, and it's quite similar to a SAP system. So you could say it's quite rigid in how it operates, and we probably spent the last 2 years actually implementing that and getting it to operate in the most efficient manner. And it genuinely does cover all aspects of the organization. Right from whenever our customers will place orders until the parts or the products are actually being dispatched to go to our customers. So, overall, it has been absolutely fantastic. And everything that we tried to do, we tried to have that CloudSuite system at the very center of that application. And essentially, we want it to be the hub where all the traffic within the organization is diverted through.
And we have another question in the chat here. Someone has said they're just curious to understand the time frame from identification of suitable technology to POC to deploying digital assisted assembly. Was this started in 2019? How do you identify the training needs of all your staff in addition to training the 7 engineers? So they've cheekily fired 4 questions on there, David, rather than just the one.
Value for money.
We all love value for money. But in terms of that process, how long did it take, and what were the kind of key things in and around that training needs analysis?
Yeah, so I think we've probably been on our digital journey for around 18 months now. So, as an organization, we are relatively in the early stages of our journey as well. But in terms of specifically digital assembly, we recognize that to digitize the full assembly process is a massive task, and we therefore took the strategy to divide that up into a number of different phases. And first, we really looked at how we could implement digital work instructions. And the reason why we selected digital work instructions was not only would we get the benefit in the assembly department, but we could also roll that out to the rest of the manufacturing facility as well. And again, you're going to see a similar trend. That there was also going through our ERP system as well. We then moved on to really understand how we could start and digitize our quality gateways. And really the objective of this was to find out in real time, was there an issue with the product? But then to take that further and actually transition from being a reactive process to more of a proactive process. So we could actually predict when there was going to be an issue and then put controls in place to mitigate that. So we're actually getting smart with our quality. And that was actually able to not only reduce cost in our process, because of waiting times and scrap, and it was actually also able to reduce our takt time. So we were actually able to reduce our lead time to our customer.
The next question in the chat here, I think it's a really good question, which is how much of this was a technology project and how much of this was actually a cultural change project? I know there's an impression about manufacturing that it's old, middle-aged men in boiler suits, et cetera, and they're probably resistant to change.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of good, young, smart people like yourself and colleagues in and around manufacturing as well that maybe are more open to change. So what much of it was technology and much of it actually was changing hearts and minds?
I'd say probably 50-50. And whenever we initially are implementing technology or any digital solutions, what we found was, from the outset, there is resistance to change. So we actually came up with a strategy. Well, let's take a step back. Let's find something where we can get a quick win, build some momentum within the team, and then actually, start to implement the more difficult things further down the line. And it was really, really refreshing, being 12 to 18 months on our digital journey, to actually look back and see the cultural change. There's more and more of our employees who are eager and enthusiastic to be involved and actually utilize digital technology because, they can see the benefits which other departments are gaining from it. So absolutely, we can't just have technology by itself. There also needs to be a cultural change, and that does need to come from top management within the organization to really enable that to happen.
And you mentioned there, obviously, with the global downturn in air travel and the issues that that's creating for aerospace, and the fact that yes, the pubs are and the hotels and the restaurants are open at the minute, but it's going to be a bit of a lag before we get aerospace finally up and running again. But you mentioned that you kind of spotted that as an opportunity to kind of position the company for future growth. And we have a question in here from someone asking that you mentioned that the introduction of digital technologies to assist the position in the company for the future, which is what you spoke about. What benefits have you seen, and how well are you placed following the stage of deployment? I mean, where are you in that journey now in terms of positioning for not just contributing to SAM NI, or SAM corporate, but actually to the aerospace industry and to Northern Ireland as well?
Yeah, well, I guess in terms of the improvement and the productivity gains, I think it's almost a bit prudent to put a figure on that at the moment. We can definitely see it is a significant improvement, but we have almost ran this as a pilot scheme in our assembly process, whereas now we can actually we've taken this, we've proven that it works, and we can actually roll this out to the wider manufacturing processes within the facility. So yeah, I think in terms of, you know, we're supporting the strategy for SAM Corporate, and our strategy is to grow essentially. So, you know, obviously the aerospace industry is a very capital intense industry. It takes a huge amount of money to support that growth, and we simply can't continue to, you know, purchase new machines. So we're always looking at innovative ways of how we can actually increase the capacity on our machines or reduce the cycle times and reduce the overall takt time of our processes. So this is something which we're focusing on, and also this is something which will be, you know, the benefit will be realized by our end customer and by our improved performance and service level to them.
And we won't, well, before we started the seminar, the webinar, sorry, you talked about the projections and the growth projections that are there, and I'm not going to the numbers on it, but I mean, it's pretty impressive stuff in terms of where you are now, where you believe you'll be at this time next year, and then growing exponentially from there. So there's a really strong story, and you needed to be equipped and ready and fighting fit for that growth that's coming your way.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to ask, obviously, this is a great positive story so far, but you've obviously, nothing runs smoothly in our lives and in our business. So, I mean, has there been kind of bumps in the road or challenges or problems that you've encountered in the last 18 months that are worth sharing?
I think it's really important to recognize that, you know, any change in an organization is very difficult, and it's something, you know, which doesn't happen overnight, and it takes a long time. And you know, it's very important to continue every single day, you know, to have a clear vision of where the organization is going, and be sure that, you know, be confident that we are still heading in the right direction. So, you know, we knew that, you know, once we were being acquired by SAM, the growth projections for the company, and I guess, you know, that is why we started to look early on for our digital capabilities, and our customers were also demanding this as well. But I think that would be some of the main difficulties we had is actually trying to get everyone to conform and really embrace the digital technology. I think that's probably been the most difficult thing. But you know, apart from that, actually selecting the right technology from the outset also. So, you know, you've heard about, I've said our ERP system, we want that to be the central hub where all traffic needs to go through. But we have implemented maybe 5 or 6 different digital applications, and they all interact with each other as well. So we've now, you know, almost created this digital system, I guess you could almost call it, where there's data being transmitted from one process flow to another. So that was very difficult at the outset, actually, you know, having the vision to do that and actually selecting the right applications. And you know, I shared with you where we're at today in terms of our turnover, and it was very important for us to realize that, you know, today, well, right now, we're not actually trying to solve the problem for today. We're actually trying to solve the problem for today on 10 or 15 years time as well. So, you know, I can't emphasize enough about actually researching the application and making sure that the right one is selected from the outset.
And there's a question in here around that. So did you conduct any analysis or diagnosis to scope out where you should actually start? Or did somebody just go, I know what we need to do, here's what we're going to start doing from tomorrow?
So I guess we started, obviously we started with the business strategy. We started analyzing a number of different departments in the business where we felt the capabilities, I guess, needed enhanced. And one of the tools which was crucial to this was the for manufacturing assessment. And I'd recommend, any company out there that hasn't used this assessment, it's a fantastic place to start, really. And it's a number of different categories which you can help baseline your business, and it really helps stimulate your thinking as to how you can actually get to the next level. So I said there was, maybe 20 different categories, and initially we had said, well, we want to improve all 20. And this is where the team at InvestNI came in. They had a wealth of knowledge and experience in just digital technology and Industry 4 in general, and they were really able to streamline our approach and really let us know that the best places for us to target would be our assembly process on Internet of Things. So I think that is definitely the best place to start.
And it's not a question, but it's just a comment here. I mean, there's lots of incentives out there actually for businesses to do what you're doing at the moment, which is in and around R&D tax credits, but also in the budget back in March, the Chancellor announced what's known as a super deduction. So these are enhanced capital allowances that means you can write off these capital investments against corporation tax, but there's like a 2-year window for those enhanced allowances. So if there are people watching and you're thinking about buying that machine, building that extension, whatever the case may be, then now's certainly the time to do it. Like myself, we're fascinated about how youthful you look, and the business hasn't destroyed you as yet, which is good. And people are interested and intrigued about how do you attract good young talent like yourself into businesses. I mean, what attracted you to this business and this industry, rather than sitting in a multi-story building in Belfast city centre programming or whatever the case may be? How do we get more people like manufacturing?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I joined here as a graduate straight out of Queen's University in Belfast. I completed a mechanical engineering degree, and what amazed me about this place was the precision which we make parts to. So we're machining large components that could be up to 5 meters in size out of aluminium, titanium, or other exotic metals, and we're producing these down to the accuracy of the thickness of a piece of hair. You can't see that with your eye, so that there element fascinated me, and also realizing the importance of having a process-driven approach. Also fascinated me, where we wanted to move away from having knowledge-based approach to actually having processes which drive behavior, and then actually taking it from the next step, where we move away from we move away from directional activities into behavioral, where it actually becomes part of the culture within the organization. So I guess it was that sort of story and training that really sold it to me. Yeah, and I definitely recommend any other young person who's coming through university to definitely get into manufacturing. It's a very exciting and fast changing environment to be in.
That's great, and we'll record that piece and send that out separately to every school in Northern Ireland to make sure that they know about that. There's a question here just in terms of the kind of process. So people are asking around the utilization of sensors on machines to monitor performance, predictive maintenance, that sort of stuff. I mean, you've talked a bit there about the Internet of Things, so that's obviously connected machines and that spitting back out diagnostics for you. I mean, have you a lot of sensors in and around what you do, or are they all kind of already built into some of the devices that you're using to measure, etc.?
I guess we have embarked upon that journey, but we're probably not quite as mature as we would like to be in that section. So we do have, we have quite a number of sensors on machines, but we recognize that there is still a long way to go. We've actually implemented a new system from our corporate team. It's called Andon, which is a Japanese term. It basically translates to light. So that pretty much highlights or shines a light onto any issues which are occurring right throughout our manufacturing facility. So that is the part of the Internet of Things which we're currently focusing on, and that really allows us to make more, quicker and more real-time and effective decisions within the organization.
That's great. There's a question here just about identifying the right provider. So as part of that research process, which yourself and Dara have made clear was really important. I mean, saying identifying the right provider of the service stroke equipment required to achieve the desired digital transformation can be frustrating. Have you any advice for better targeting the right provider?
No, I don't think so, to be honest. We actually have quite a good network within the organization here. So we work with a lot of, I guess, best in class service providers here. So we know the right people to talk to for the applications which we're after, but also having strong partnerships with some of the academics down in our local universities, and some of the things that them guys are doing down there, is very, very beneficial, and we can definitely learn a lot from the NITC Centre down in Belfast. So I think a lot of it is about networking, knowing and understanding your industry, and also having that academic field in there to actually add some research in and understand what the future may look like as well.
And I think there's a lot of lessons there. I mean, we tend to close the factory gates or the shutters behind us when we get into our businesses, and we're very bad at promoting what we do in Northern Ireland in terms of our manufacturing. We keep it to ourselves in many respects. But actually, companies like you mentioned about collaboration earlier on. It's collaboration not just with academia, but with other businesses as well. Sharing the stories like we're doing today, doing more of that. Actually, all our boats can rise, and it's important that we do take that opportunity to share. Can I just ask then, just about coming close to your time, the next steps? So what's next on your journey?
So what's next on our journey is we are now looking at more augmented reality, so how we further digitize our assembly process. So other members in the makers panel were speaking about the HoloLens, and from that that has really provoked us into start looking, well, how could we use that application or a similar application at SAM NI? So we're looking at that for applications such as assembly or actually maintenance, whereby the machine builder wouldn't have to actually travel to come on site, and he could actually talk one of our engineers through the process. But then I guess the possibilities are almost endless. We could roll this out into every single manufacturing process which we have in here. It's just a matter of time and resource. So it's really just considering what is the biggest bang for our buck. But definitely augmented reality is the next piece of the puzzle for us.
David, that's great. I mean, there's a comment in here asking if you'd start to record some TikTok videos, because you're very enthusiastic and very inspirational. And I have to agree with the contribution as well. You're a great addition to our manufacturing community, and we're delighted to have you. And Sam, we're very lucky to have you as well. So thanks very much for being in the industry first, but more particularly for sharing your story with us today. There's some questions in our Q&A around the 4 manufacturing assessments. So just for everybody's benefit, this is a free tool that Invest NI can take our manufacturing businesses through. David's talked about their experience. If you've watched any of the previous step talks, you'll see that other manufacturers across Northern Ireland have begun this journey by just taking that first step in terms of the 4 manufacturing assessment. It's a really simple tool supported by Invest NI that actually look at and assess your business and where you believe you are on that journey at this point in time, and it can direct out to really positive actions and interventions and give you a plan in many respects in terms of engaging on this journey. David, thanks very much for your contribution. Barry, if you could put up the next slide, it wouldn't I would appreciate it. As I said at the beginning, this is the third of our 4 step talks, and our last one is coming up in just a couple of weeks' time, which is with Ross Kane at Collins Aerospace, and it's about digitalization within manufacturing. And Collins, who are a global aircraft seat manufacturer based down in Kilkeel, they provide an insight into how they achieve greater efficiencies within their business and improve their quality by using that augmented reality, which is David's just talked about in terms of the next stage, in terms of their progress. Next slide, Barry, please. And there's a couple of questions there that I didn't pitch straight to David, because part of these STEP program is actually about encouraging people to collaborate with each other and to talk with each other. So we do have mentoring opportunities. Now, we don't want 100 people contacting David and Dara and their colleagues asking for free business consulting. We certainly don't want anybody trying to nick you to their own business, or Sam might be causing us some trouble. But I know that that all the companies participating in these STEP talks are willing to offer specific, bespoke, individual conversations to kind of talk about their own experience, to talk about their journey, and to share some of their insights. So some of those questions that we didn't get to in the chat, if you do drop an email to opexquery, that's opexquery@investni.com, and we can set up a conversation with David and colleagues, or anyone else involved in these STEP talks so far. And then back again to the question asked about the 4 manufacturing assessment. Again, if you're interested in beginning that process, and we've got dozens of companies now in our manufacturing industry have gone through this in Northern Ireland, then again, just drop an email to the same address, which is opexquery@investni.com, and the team there at InvestNI will pick up that inquiry for you. Barry, we're just going to finish with the last 2 poll questions before everybody leaves us, if you don't mind. So the next poll question is, what challenge are you trying to solve that you believe requires a digital technology solution? So is it in and around efficiency, innovation, supply chain, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? So we'll give that about 10 seconds. And whilst we're doing that, I just wanted to thank Sam NI for giving the time for Dara to do the video for us to begin with, but also David in terms of your openness and your participation here today. And Barry, just the last poll question now. So if you could please select the top 2 areas of the following which you think that any future STEP webinars should focus on. So servitization, predictive maintenance, mass customization, industrial energy efficiency, that circular economy piece, or flexible manufacturing. I just want to finish off by saying finally thanks to Barry, who runs the show behind the scenes, and all the people in InvestNI for putting these sessions on. I particularly thank the team in InvestNI for their role in terms of bringing manufacturers together, and for our colleagues in Enterprise NI in terms of sharing the experiences with their membership as well. And finally, just to say, hopefully we'll see you along at our last session with Collins Aerospace in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks very much.